and monk with over 40 years of experience. He has been a guest speaker at Fortune 500 corporations such as Intel, Microsoft, Cisco, to mention a few, and he has inspired Bhakti yoga clubs at universities across the country, such as MIT, University of Illinois, Penn State, and many others. Ramapad Swami conducts several spiritually nourishing retreats and seminars throughout the year. And he's going to enlighten us today with an insightful talk on the path of yoga, beyond Nirvana, exploring the wisdom of ancient India. And we are very, very grateful to have him with us. So please, let's give a warm welcome to Ramapad Swami. Thank you.
After what you've just been through, you're all relaxed and focused, right? Or something. Different kind of yoga. Is there a projector? But she needs to turn the projector on. You know how to turn the projector on?
Yeah, it should be.
It's just warming up.
Yeah, it's just warming up. It should display in a couple of minutes.
Okay. Countdown. While we're waiting for this other one. How many of you are involved in some regular, like, daily type of yoga, one type or another type of yoga? The title, Beyond Nirvana, the Path of Yoga, needs a little explanation. Nirvana is a Sanskrit word. Probably to use my Nirvana is a Sanskrit word that was borrowed by the Buddhists. The goal of a Buddhist or Buddhism is nirvana. Nirvana is in Sanskrit there's two parts. Nir means not. And vana literally means forest. So out of the forest or the complexities of material existence, nirvana, cessation of material existence, literally. So, any of you familiar with Buddhism? Have practiced it or a little bit familiar with what it is? Okay. I'm going to give you a little lesson on not exactly what Buddhism is, but maybe a good place to begin is a little background. A few years ago, I was an undergraduate college student. A few years ago. Once upon a time. And when I was in doing my undergraduate studies, the war in Vietnam was going on. Now there's another war that's going on. And there hasn't been a draft notices yet, but who knows what's going to happen coming up. And if it does happen, it was happening when I was in undergraduate school. My parents were getting draft notices from the U.S. Army with my name on it because it was my home address, and they wanted me to come to their recruiting office and get a uniform and get on an airplane and go off to Vietnam. And I didn't respond because two reasons. The war was a dumb war. And the second reason is I was in pre-med, and in a Dean's List pre-med student, and I thought it was double dumb to take somebody out of medical school training and send them off to a dumb war. So I didn't respond. Wasn't like defiant, I was just like not paying attention to it. And my parents kept saying, you gotta do something, you'll end up in jail. You gotta do something. They didn't say what to do, but you gotta do something. So what happened was I found out from some Quakers, you've heard of the Quakers, a Christian group, that they were very helpful to help people fill out a conscientious objector form. So I got a conscientious objector form. The first question is something like this: state the nature of your belief such that you cannot take part in the armed forces of the United States of America. That's the first question. And I know how to get A's in exams. You know what the evaluator of the exam wants, and you put that on the paper, and that's how you get an A in your exam. But I wasn't satisfied with doing that, check the box. I started asking, what are my convictions? What do I really believe in? And then, that question led to 100 other questions, at least 10 other questions. Fundamental questions that I used to ask when I was a little kid growing up, but I didn't get answers when I asked Mom and Dad, and asked the priest, and asked the Sunday school teacher, and asked people that are, the kind of people, the go-to people, that they didn't have answers. They didn't say we don't know, but they didn't know. And so I stopped asking those questions and just got busy doing being successful, or checking the boxes of being successful. So you all know what those boxes are. You're all doing it. Do well in academics. For a young boy in America growing up, do well in sports, and have a social life that's nice, or supposed to be nice. So I did, for 20 years, that's what I did. And then came the United States government asking me, what are your convictions? And I didn't know. And that bothered me. Wait a minute. An education where you're not encouraged to look inside yourself and ask yourself the question what your convictions are, and you can't say if you're asked, honestly. You can give a good answer, but what your convictions are. So I was upset at the system that I had bought into and was part of. Because you do that, and when you're on the other side, you're out in the world doing what you're supposed to do without knowing who you really are, what your convictions are. And I didn't like that model. So I kind of set it to the side and started looking for other models. And that inquisitiveness, I'm just sharing this with you because it leads to the topic. One of the first things that some events started happening. One of those events was, in my senior year of undergraduate study, I found myself living with a group of people that I didn't know before. They didn't know before the senior year. But they were all kind of brought together by fate or circumstance. And each person in this, there was a big farmhouse we rented outside the city, outside the campus. And everyone in that living facility had a different spiritual discipline or, persuasion or practice. So one of those persons was a Buddhist, or not what he was learning Buddhism. And not far from where I went to the university, there was, in Rochester, New York, there was a Zen ashram, a Zendo. And the person who was in charge of it had written a book about Zen Buddhism. So I read the book. We used to go to the Zen meetings and do what Zen Buddhist practitioners do. We did Zazen. So I learned a little bit about it. I'm sharing this with you because it has to do with the title. And a little bit of the human interest, tell a story, once upon a time story. I found the practice was powerful, but it wasn't substantial. In this way, every morning we were told it's best to do any spiritual practice, and it's true, best to do any spiritual practice a certain amount of time, but like around 2 hours before the sun rises every morning. So that's what we did. Like 5 o'clock in the morning, or 5, before then, we're in the farmhouse. We built a little zendo, and it's very simple. The process goes like this. This is the Nirvana methodology. That is, the idea is to not identify with the thoughts in your mind. If you've noticed, it's really easy to get distracted by thoughts in the mind. Thinking, feeling, willing are functions of the mind, according to Bhagavad Gita. So there's always something going on up there in the mind. So that for 2 hours, the discipline wasn't specifically like try to stop thinking, but to consider the thoughts to be like clouds in the sky, and so this was the practice. And here comes a cloud, a thought, and it just you observe it, but you don't identify with it. This is detachment, and just watch it go, and there it goes, and it's gone. And then here comes another one. Same procedure, and you do that for 2 hours, and eventually you have a clear sky. You have a mind that's not cluttered with stuff. And it was powerful, it worked. I mean, for 2 hours, every day. And you do, there's a teaching about yoga, because this is a Bhakti Yoga club. There's a very famous personality who wrote about yoga. His name is Patanjali. Some of you are nodding. He's not Krishna, he's not a Bhagavad Gita person, he's just a practitioner of yoga and authority in yoga. So he wrote Patanjali Yoga Sutras. And one of those sutras is a definition. Really, sutra means a little phrase, cryptic phrase. So it's just like 3 words in this sutra, and it's a definition of practice. Practice, abhyasa in Sanskrit. What's yoga practice? In 3 words. So 3 words. Something that you do every day. Second is for an extended period of time, every day, every day, every day. So be patient and perseverant. And then the third is what drives that machine is some confidence that it's going to take you to where you want to go. You get on a train that says this is the destination, or a bus and says this is the destination, you're confident it's going to take you to the destination. It may take a while, but you'll get there. So those are the 3 things that make up yoga practice every day for over an extended period of time with confidence it's going to get to the place you want to go. if it's a consciousness elevation, that's you have the right practice, have a good teacher with a good teaching, and off you go. And you'll get there. So I found practically after doing this for like 4 months or so, it was powerful, but it was unnatural. Unnatural in the sense that after doing the Zazen for 2 hours, then you do I would do my everyday activity, and that focus would dissipate. The same sense of connection with mindfulness evaporated, or it wasn't sustainable. Practice powerful, yes. So then I started looking around at other things, and I found mantra meditation, etc., 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 and here I am, doing mantra meditation for a number of years, because it's effective. It achieves that focus, the spiritual benefit, without having it become fuzzy after some time. So I'll go back to some years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I came across a devotional teaching by an author named Jiva Goswami. And those of you that have been around ISKCON for a while, you'll have an idea who he is. He's the backbone of the Bhakti teachings by his strong exposition on what Bhakti is. So in one of his writings, he explains about Buddhism, which has to do with the title of Beyond Nirvana. So the teaching of Buddhism goes like this. Besides the practice which I described, the mindfulness practice, there's a teaching that says Buddha and Buddhism doesn't comment on the existence of a soul. Doesn't say there is, doesn't say there isn't. Makes no comment, explicit comment. He just rather says that there is consciousness, which implies the soul, but it doesn't say soul. The consciousness is momentary, meaning, explicitly, the past is gone, it's no longer here. The future hasn't happened yet, all we have is the moment. And therefore, by his teaching, consciousness is momentary. And therefore, his teaching and practice is be in the moment. It's mindfulness. It's popular, currently popular, and that's where it comes from. When I was first asked to speak about this, I was visiting at a home somewhere in the Midwest. So I asked the gentleman whose home I was staying, in the corporate world, is mindfulness a buzz like it is outside? He said, oh yes. Everyone in our corporation must take a seminar on the mindful manager. It's made its way into corporate America, mindfulness. So the idea is be in the moment. Be in the moment. That's mindfulness. And if you're very focused on being in the moment, eventually the goal is, fasten your seatbelt, to go beyond the moment. And what's beyond the moment? Nirvana. And nirvana means, that in Sanskrit, it's cessation of material existence. Muktir hitvanyata rupam svarupenya vyavastati. That's the meaning. Go beyond the misidentification with the body, and then when you no longer identify with the body or the temporary, because you've become so good at being in the moment, you've gone beyond the moment, you're in this nirvana place, or enlightenment place, or nothingness. That's nirvana, from their understanding, the Buddhists' understanding. So the topic here is beyond nirvana, the path of yoga. Because the word yoga means to connect or link with something. So there's different, as you know, there are different adjectives describing this kind of yoga and that kind of yoga. You were doing a certain type of yoga when I came in. It's a mindfulness kind of yoga. Then there's physical yoga, hatha yoga, and so forth. Karma yoga, Gyan yoga, Dhyan yoga, Sankhya yoga. But they're all those yogas are making connection with something. And the ideal, by step, is to connect with the Supreme. And the Supreme, by definition, is that from which everything comes. Whatever that is, that's the Supreme. And we're part of that, because we're a little part of that something. And by yoga, one can connect with that source of everything. It's beyond cessation of material existence. It's the awakening, the full awakening of spiritual existence, knowing who you are, and living in that consciousness moment to moment in relationship with the source of everything. Any of you here a little familiar, modestly familiar with Bhagavad Gita? Anyone? Yeah, a few of you. Okay. If you don't have a Bhagavad Gita, can we give people Bhagavad Gitas? Yes. They're sponsored Bhagavad Gitas. If you don't have one, we'll gladly give you one. With the request, please read it. But, it's a request, not a requirement. Please read it. So those of you that have one or will get one, look at the very last verse of chapter 6 in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna gives a definition of what the Uttama or topmost form of yoga is, because that's what our topic is, beyond nirvana, the topmost form of yoga. It's very simple. Yogi namapi sarve sam madgatain antaratmana shradhavan bhajate yomam samyukta uttama. Uttama means above darkness. It's very similar to what nirvana means. Above tama is darkness. Above darkness is light. So in that realm of light, the topmost system of yoga, very simple, it has two parts. It's part of what you were doing here before. What the mind does and what the body does. That's not the language of the verse, but that's what it's saying. We have minds and we have bodies. So what do you do with them? To make it a type of yoga that connects you with the Supreme. And the answer, the adjective is Bhakti yoga. Bhakti simply means making a connection with the Supreme through service with love. Service with love. And the service, it can be the simplest thing. In fact, it doesn't matter whether it's simple or great or somewhere in between. It's the feeling with which you offer something. The love with which you offer something. And when you offer something with love, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, another verse, Patram, Pushpam, Palam, Toyam, those four things. Fruit, flower, leaf, and water. That's the English translation. Simple, offering a leaf. Offer a flower. Offer a fruit. Offer some water. And offer with love. And Krishna says, I accept. I will eat. Ashnami. I'm going to tell a little Mahabharata story. Bhagavad Gita, I hope it's okay. Storytelling is nice. Bhagavad Gita the literally middle portion of a big book called Mahabharata. And the big book is a history. The history of Greater India. Maha means great. Bharata, the land of India. Mahabharata. So in that history, without all the details of the history, there's a certain scene of Krishna accepting something that's offered with love. So he came. There was a big tussle going on between one group of kings, one group of military men, another group, and they were at odds with each other. But they were cousins. They came from the same family, cousin brothers, and it was became a fratricidal war. So Krishna was requested, please see if you can bring a peace settlement so there won't be war, because he was also a cousin. So he agreed. He went and made a peace offer, but it was rejected without the detail. And the person who rejected it was on the bad guy's side, Duryodhana. So Duryodhana had a plan. I want to butter up Krishna so he can be on my side instead of the other cousin brother's side. So he invited him, Duryodhana invited him to have a meal. It's tradition. A guest comes, because he's from another place. You've come to our city. Please accept a meal at my home. So Krishna said, there are two reasons why people may eat. One is if they're hungry. I'm not hungry. Or one may eat if they're not hungry, if there's love. But here there's no love. Because you're inviting me to your home when you have animosity for the Pandavas, the good guys, the people on the other side. And you're so virulent and distasteful in your attitude towards them. There's no love here. So thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to go where there's love. So where he went was uncle. There was an uncle, and he went to his uncle's home. But his uncle was absent at that time. Vidura, Uncle Vidura was his name. But his wife was home, and she was really excited. They were poor, and all she had in their house was bananas. So she went and got some bananas, and she was so excited. She peeled the bananas and gave him the banana peel, and he ate the banana peel. And then the uncle came home and said, "What are you doing? You've given him banana peels, and you've kept the bananas in the bowl." She said, "Oh." I got so excited. And Krishna said, what I accept is the love, not the object. So the banana peels were wonderful because they were offered with love. And that's a very nice, I find, very nice example of what Bhakti Yoga is. Offer something simple. I mean, if you have, better to offer the banana than the banana peel, but if it's offered with love, that's bhakti, that's love. It's service, connection with the source of everything through loving service. Connection, yoga, through loving service. So that's beyond nirvana. Cessation of material existence is negative. And what's on the other side of cessation of material existence? Spiritual existence. And different yoga systems are to connect with that source of what's beyond material existence. So that's that little image. You know, the yoga system, Bhagavad Gita itself, one way to describe what it is, it's a description of the yoga system that's compared to like a ladder or a stairway, and it leads to a higher place. You keep following the yoga system step by step by step. Something that's comfortable for you, something you can do every day. Remember those three things. Something you do every day for a prolonged period of time with confidence it's going to take you to where you want to go. Higher consciousness or connection with the Supreme. That's yoga practice. So here's a nice little image. And the question here is everything that happens to us in our life, is it destined or is there free will? Like bad things happen to good people. Is that because of destiny or what's the cause? You know, one answer is karma. And you all know what that term means. That's a Sanskrit word, but it's a commonly used one in English. So here's two people, and they're the puppeteers. You know, there's the sun and there's the moon. You know, like goodness and darkness. And there's two people down here. They're having a duel, a sword duel over the beautiful damsel. And one's going to be the winner, one's going to be the loser. And they're thinking, you know, I'm going to be the victor, or he's going to be the victor. But they're both under the control of the influences of material nature. That's a very nice description. We have free will. Things aren't simply happen because of some bad karma or some good karma. I would assume that you're at a very prestigious university here, so you have back there somewhere there's some good karma. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You'd be out doing something else somewhere else. So it's good. It's the fruit of good karma, and then during your student life, then your career life, and your everything else life, your life. Karma says you do. As you do, it comes back to you. As you sow, you shall reap, as it says in the Bible. As you sow, you shall reap. Good deeds bring good fruits. Bad deeds bring bad fruits. So that's destiny. But when we're living a life where something is happening in our life, we have some free will to choose what we're going to do. And the ideal is consult wisdom literature. That's why I've been referring to Bhagavad Gita. This is a nice depiction. Before there was printed books, this is the system. They wrote on leaf plates. It was all done by hand. They bound it in a little string and a little hard piece of wood to bind it together, and each one of those is a scripture or wisdom literature. And Buddha, you probably know, but I will say it anyways. When he's an incarnation of Krishna, according to the Vedas. He's an incarnation of Krishna, but he came at a particular time when it was a common practice to slaughter animals. So he was a prince. He had privileges because he was a prince, and he went one time to a temple and he saw they're killing an animal, they're slaughtering an animal in a religious sacrifice. So he asked what was going on, and he said, it's according to our scripture. So he took the position, I reject your scripture. Be nonviolent. Ahimsa. And that's a platform of goodness. And the rest of his teachings were also, live your life according to the standards of goodness. Not for the purpose of good karma, but for the purpose of going beyond karma. Going beyond the cycle of birth and death. Going beyond material existence altogether. But with the rejection of the Vedas. But then the Vedas are meant to carry one beyond the stage of nirvana in his definition. Here's a very nice teaching. You should be familiar with it, probably already are. There are three modes of nature: goodness, passion, ignorance. And the passion represents creation. Ignorance is destruction. And goodness, that's this one on the left, that's maintenance. So there are three forces within material nature, modes of nature, that are operating the whole show. Just like driving here. I've been to this university before, but I'm just reminded by driving along, and there's construction over here, there's just breaking a building over there, and goodness and passion and ignorance. And some places are, very strong structures, and for at least for some time, they'll stand and be a place of higher education, this university. And, prestigious universities like this one, sometimes the buildings are really old. Stone, like, Ivy League schools. Phew, they're citadels. They're fortresses. They'll eventually also crumble by time. But these three modes of nature, mindfulness influenced by the three modes of nature. That's what is mindfulness when it's in the material field. The Bhagavad Gita is teaching, you see these three verses, 20, 21, 22, 23. This is a description of dhyan, or mindfulness that's with the mind fixed upon the Supreme. When we're done, because I'm not going to do it right now, I invite you to go take a look at Bhagavad Gita, or I can, at the end, when it comes to questions and answers, I'll read those 4 verses. But there's the scene, there's a battle, and Krishna's the chariot driver. Arjuna, the main hero, is on the chariot, and Krishna is giving him instructions in the yoga system. Svarupena vyavastati, that's Sanskrit. Sva means one's own. Rupa means form. The permanent form, the permanent situation of the form of the living entity. Vyavastati is being situated in. So the idea of yoga is to become situated where, that's what these verses from chapter 6, where you can be situated in your true identity, as opposed to a covering. Because the body is compared in Bhagavad Gita to like a garment. So I'm wearing this garment, I'm wearing a monk's garment, and you're wearing another one. Maybe tomorrow you wear a different set of clothes, probably. And then the next day, then the next day. So we change clothes and we change bodies. But when one finishes changing bodies and becomes situated beyond those material circumstances, the permanent situation of the form of the living entity after he gives up the changeable, gross, and subtle material bodies. Over on the right side, that's a depiction of what happened. It's a long story. Because of time, I'm not going to tell the long story. There was a very simple boy who was the son of a maidservant. He had a mother, but he didn't know who his father was. And she was, a servant type of lady. She didn't have a good education or anything. She just did service. And when he was a little boy, some sages, during the 4 months of the rainy season, they were staying in the place where she was looking after them. She did the cooking, little boy brought the meals. And he heard their talks, and he washed their clothes, and he did little services, and he was very gentle. And so they felt compassion. And they had their discussions, spiritual discussions, and he heard them, and they gave him specific teachings, like a mantra that he could chant, and spiritual teachings, just like, Bhagavad Gita will instruct us. And he took it to heart. It moved his heart. And for the rest of his life, he lived that way. There's details, but he ended up having his mind completely fixed upon the Supreme. And when the body was finished, he attained a spiritual form. That's what is being depicted. That spiritual form became Narada Muni. I'm going to try to end quickly. Something that I've been doing every day for a number of years is listening to recorded lectures by my spiritual master. So this morning was doing the same thing, and every morning the same thing. Every morning for many years. And when you do something, this practice of spiritual practice, something that you do every day for a prolonged period of time with confidence it's going to take you to where you want to go. So I've been doing that. And one of the phrases that I heard my spiritual master say some years ago was the living entity is both conscious and consciousness. And I thought, that sounds cool. What does it mean? But he said it, so I accepted it, but I didn't know what it meant. So some time passed, and from reading another text, the Upanishads, I found the explanation. The explanation was succinct, very terse, but it said, just like a lamp is both luminous and it lights up the pots and plates in the room, similarly the living entity is conscious and consciousness. We're exhibiting, we're in the light of consciousness, but consciousness expands beyond the body. So we can see one another, we can hear the fan of the air conditioner doing its thing, we can, etc., etc. The ears, the eyes, the nose, etc., etc. The senses are extending out beyond the body, and we're perceiving things. And so consciousness is expanding, and consciousness is localized. The living entity is both conscious and consciousness. And the yoga system is to focus on that seat of consciousness that's within. There's details that you find in Bhagavad Gita. There's two entities. Here's one. That's the living entity, the tiny living entity, that's us. Little skinny guy, that's us. And then side by side, there's the Supreme. And the same Supreme that's within my heart, or your heart, within a bug's heart, or a bird's heart, in any form of life, is the same, the very same Supreme is within. The same Supreme is within. Here's a Mundaka Upanishad, a Mundaka Upanishad reference that says the same. There's one living entity, like two birds in a tree. One living entity on the left enjoying the fruits, the other living entity on the right is witnessing the one that's enjoying the fruits. So we're the one on the left that's trying to be the enjoyer of our activities and the fruits of our activities. That's karma. And karma yoga teaches, don't be attached to the fruits, you offer the fruits to the Supreme. That's karma yoga. With karma, then it's bondage. Karma yoga, there's no bondage. And when you're freed from bondage, that's one of the steps in the direction. This is another image pointing the same. Two birds. The Supreme and the individual. I'm going to try to finish. Yes. Okay. This is saying the same thing. There's a popular phrase, at least in my generation, a soul-to-soul relationship. Is it possible? The answer is yes. But the medium, the via medium, is the super soul. So this is a little graphic meant to show. There's two Chinese fellows. They have some similarities. They both are Chinese. And they both have a little beard. And they're friends. And one of them has a soul inside, and the other one has a soul inside, but it's a different soul. But they both have the same Supreme Soul inside. And so if there's a soul-to-soul relationship, it's through the via media of Super Soul. That is to say, if you become spiritually conscious, then it becomes possible to have a soul-to-soul relationship that's not just on the physical plane, like I like you, or she likes him, or he likes her, or you have a friend, and on the physical plane. And then when time passes, the body's gone, and you lament, because it's over. But the soul isn't over. And mantra meditation is a method that can bring one in connection with that supreme consciousness or higher consciousness. And I'm going to end with I like this image. I'm ending. Is part of what you do you engage the students in mantra meditation? Okay. Louder?
We're going to have a monthly meditation session after.
This evening?
Yes.
No kidding.
After the Q&A session.
Okay. Go. And, thank you all for coming. It's a busy time of the year, but you're here. And I hope that you shared something that's valuable. And if you don't have Bhagavad Gita, take one with you. Any comments or discussion? Okay. I'm patient. I can wait and see if there's something. Yeah.
How do you increase your concentration on a particular thing?
How do you increase concentration?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because even if I try to meditate for some time, my mind goes here and there. Multiple things comes in my mind.
Welcome to the club. A principle, two principles. One, clearing. Second principle, awakening. I've just putting the buzz out. So, the natural consciousness of the soul is not like what your experience is, because that's the mind. And the mind is a covering, and because the mind is attached to the physical conception of self, then I'm attached to stuff, or, n number of things. So it's attachment to stuff. So the practice of Buddhism is become, the thoughts are just clouds in the sky, and you don't interact. Commonly people identify with the thoughts. It becomes their life. Not just, happiness and distress and figuring out how to solve problems, but it's me. So this is the cleansing. It's not me. And if it's not me, then who am I? So the process is practice. It requires the proper discipline, and you've practiced it the same three ways that mentioned. Every day, something. So that coming up shortly is mantra meditation. That's what I've been doing. I did some other stuff and then some other stuff, and I ended up with, because it worked. And, experimenting. So you're experimenting. Meditation. And the mind gets cluttered. And just, it doesn't stay fixed. It's chanchala. You know the meaning. Yeah, flickering. Like a candle flame in the wind. It's always moving. So how do you stop the wind? You don't stop the candle flame, you just stop the wind. So the wind is the attachment for the temporary. So that's the right question. How do I become free from attachment for the temporary? And that the answer is, by attachment to the Supreme, the attachment for the temporary subsides. Principle. If you have a dimmer switch, there's an off and on switch. They call it rocker arm switch, off, on, a 1 or a 0. But there's switches that are da, 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 and as the light goes up, the darkness is dispelled. That's the clearing of the affinity or attachment for the temporary. Because if all I know is the temporary and darkness, that's all there is. And I don't know what light is because I know it because I'm immersed in darkness. The temporary. But it's not who I am. So how to get free from misidentification with who I am? Know who you are. You have to have a practice that will help you realize who you are. That's the clearing. And then the second part is awakening. That is, who I really am is already there. I don't have to go find it somewhere. It's within. It's already situated within. The problem is I'm looking for happiness and it's out there somewhere. That's the problem. It's ignorance. I don't know who I am and I'm trying to find happiness out there. And I'm attached to the happiness. There's nothing wrong with being attached to happiness, but it's not out there. Then how to have the experience that's inside? That's the awakening. But you get the awakening simultaneous with the detachment from what it isn't, and who you aren't, or the darkness of ignorance. So that's yoga's system, connecting with light and diminishing the darkness. Moving toward tamasi ma, tamasi, tamas, ignorance, tamasi ma. Don't go to darkness. Jyotir gama, go to light. That's how. But then, what's the process, please? I need some teaching, and I need a good teacher. So Bhagavad Gita is the teaching, and then someone that is living that life style, they applying the dimmer switch is going in the upper direction in their life, and hear from them, and then learn from them, and respect the teaching, and then you see how you can apply it in your life. It's not easy because we're busy. One of the things we're busy with is solving problems. And if when you're done with that one, there's 10 more. And then you get busy problem solving. And it doesn't end by that method. But the dimmer switch method works. It's not like I never stub my toe. Or I never get a pain in my elbow or something because I become a Hare Krishna guy. That's not what it means. But I know what to do, the ABC, and I can tolerate the temporary, and because I'm giving my attention to the eternal. And then the temporary fades. Its importance just fades. Practical experience. But you have to experience it yourself to say, yes, that's what happens. But that's what happens. You turn on the light, the darkness is dispelled. And so what's that switch that turns on the light? Anyone else? Okay, we're ready for the next thing. What's the next thing? Oh, okay. You're the yoga teacher. You want the microphone?
Thank you so much for such an insightful talk. Please let's all thank Prabhupada Swami. Thank you for sharing such powerful and transformative wisdom with us. We're very grateful to have had you come and speak today. So the next part of today's session is mantra